You're playing the wrong game. Hell, I learned this playing basketball in high school. We were up 18 times at halftime. We only won 3 games, and that's because those were really bad teams. We lost the other, 15 times because we played not to lose. Playing not to lose is being so defensive that we don't think about value and service and creating something for other people. It is destructive at its core. I like this right here. Insert your definition of success here, because most people have a definition of success that's determined and deemed by society, and especially when it comes to finance. Like, finance uses this term financial freedom all the time, but financial freedom has been bastardized. It's like people think if they have a certain amount of money in a bank account that somehow that's freedom, but I'm here to tell you that financial freedom is a state of being and a state of mind. And what it really is when it comes down to it is when money's no longer your primary reason or excuse why you would do or not do something. So it's still a consideration, but when it's no longer your primary reason or excuse, you have financial freedom. And so much of the world, they don't have financial freedom because money is their primary excuse. They use things like, say, I can't afford it, right? They'll say a deliberate declaration like that destroys all possibility because of the mindset and the paradigm that they're in. So there's really 3 main paradigms or mindsets when it comes to money. And the very first one is playing not to lose. Playing not to lose is born of budgeting and lives within scarcity. Budgeting is always about scrimping, sacrificing, saving, and delaying. And it ultimately sucks because instead of thinking about production, it leads us towards reduction. And I'm not saying that it's not important to be mindful about your cash management. I'll give you an infrastructure that allows you to do it more automated so you don't have to use that energy and that thought process just on saving. But instead, you can use it on value creation, service, and solving problems. So playing not to lose, this is what my family was born into, or at least in 1913 is the time that I studied when my great-grandfather left San Giovanni, Italy, because he really couldn't put food on the table. Now, some people say that in today's world, like, I've got to put food on the table. It is not hard to put food on the table in today's society. The government will do it for you if you can't do it yourself. But back then, the government was actually taxing him, and the mob was taxing him because San Giovanni's pretty far south in Italy, and so the mob was coming in, and he couldn't actually put food on the table, so he left his pregnant wife for 7 years, went across the ocean, came to Sunnyside, Utah, became a goat herder, and eventually a coal miner. It took 7 years because that's how long it took for him to save up enough money to leave the tent he was living in, have a house, and get her to get on a ship, which my great-grandma, the fact that he got her on a ship, he must have been the most persuasive man in the world because I've only seen her in one spot my whole life. On the couch, worried at all times. Like whatever things about health, she defied all of them. She took Valium all the time, she never moved, and she was stressed. I think that those three things sound like death, but she made it to 103, just so she could worry about everybody, right? But like my great-grandfather, he had this really bold move, but at the same time, at a cellular level, that my family adopted playing not to lose. Like that was their mantra. That's the way they went about doing things. So my great-aunt, for example, his daughter, she saved up $550,000, but applied for welfare. Like, because her mindset was about, I think she had the first dollar she ever made. And what's really disappointing about her whole life was that her and my grandfather ended up destroying their relationship because I actually made my grandfather was my first client. It was kind of a token thing. He's like my hero, and he's like, oh yeah, Garrett's in finance. I'm 19 years old. So he's like, here, let me do something with you. But just a few years after that, he came back to me because his sister went into the hospital. She wasn't doing very well, and the way that Italian family worked is they kind of gathered all the stuff and put it in one account. It happened to be in her name. And all of a sudden, if she went into a nursing home or some type of care, all that wealth could be destroyed and lost, and you can't just move it because the U.S. government has a 3-year clawback and look-back period to get to it. So he actually sat me down and said, what can we do about it? And I figured it out where 2/3 of the money was completely protected because I found the paper trail, got an attorney involved, and I felt really good about it, right? But at the same time, he said, okay, well, what are you going to do in the meantime with the money? And I did really well investing it. partially luck, but it was really well. Like, I got them really good returns. Some of it was timing. And then I got really concerned because I didn't know what was happening in the market, moved it back to cash. And my great aunt was like, why were you giving me $1,000 a month? And all of a sudden that stopped. And she accused him of stealing that interest. We just had moved it to cash, but she was old, senile, and kind of a bitch when it came down to it. So I didn't get invited to anything after I wrote about her and killing sacred cows. It was like the best gift ever, right? I was like, oh, I don't ever have to go like have Aunt Mary, who stinks, kiss me. You know, I was like, it was a really good gift ultimately. But I look at like that family, and what happened is they were so indoctrinated with playing not to lose. I mean, my grandfather was a coal miner. My great-grandfather was a coal miner, even my dad, and they were in unions that would go on strike. And I remember just as a kid, like my family was eating saltine crackers because there was no income coming in for extended periods of time. And they just had this kid, me, and they had their house, and you know, they were having a hard time making ends meet. When a family goes through that, and all of a sudden they're separated, and all of a sudden they don't get to see each other, or they don't feel like they have enough, that type of scarcity creates a playing not to lose mentality. But unfortunately, it doesn't even take that for the rest of us to get trapped in that methodology. Because in the world of finance, how many of you have heard you should diversify? Diversification is playing not to lose at the ultimate. Budgeting is playing not to lose, scrimping, sacrificing, saving, delaying, waiting for 30 years till one day, someday is the ultimate playing not to lose. And unfortunately, no matter how hard you work in playing not to lose, you can't win. You're playing the wrong game. Hell, I learned this playing basketball in high school. We were up 18 times at halftime. We only won 3 games, and that's because those were really bad teams. We lost the other 15 times because we played not to lose. Playing not to lose is being so defensive that we don't think about value and service and creating something for other people. It is destructive at its core. Now, if you have a lot of wealth, diversification could be a good idea. But if you're on your way up, it's diversification. It's separation from your money. It's actually not going to lead you where you want to go. So let's put that here for a minute as one of the mindsets, mentalities, and structures, okay? Let's go to the second one. The second one is more subtly destructive because it's celebrated. But it's celebrated with only the very few, and we ignore so many people that their lives are destroyed along the way. And it's called playing to win. Playing to win is like where we look at the magazines and someone's on the cover and we're like, oh my God, look at what this person created in the world. But when we really research their life, we find out they're not truly wealthy. So 12 years ago, I met a guy by the name of Dean Ropart. He was a Pulitzer Prize nominated journalist, and I hired him because I wanted to do this research and say, of the Forbes 400, how many people are truly wealthy? And I gave him a definition of truly wealthy. I'm like, people can be rich and not wealthy. You can be rich by having a boatload of money, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're wealthy. Wealthy to me means 5 different areas. Now, you've talked about it within Full Circle. It's something you already know, so I can be brief about it. One, it is money, because unless you're going to have a loincloth and live in the mountains with a bow and arrow, money's really useful, you know? Number 2, soul purpose or purpose. Soul purpose to me is your values, it's your abilities, it's your passions combined for the highest context of who you are and as a human being to deliver in this world. That's your soul purpose. The third thing is your mindset. You've talked about it. You've understood that. Tom eloquently presented that. The fourth thing is your health. We got a lot of doctors in the room, so we know how important health is. I love that proverb that says, someone with their health has 1,000 dreams, someone without has but one. Right? Health is absolutely part of our wealth. I'm like getting so fired up here, like I'm emphasizing it in like pain on my face here. But health, and then the last one is the social aspect. Relaxation, rejuvenation, recreation. When people play to win, they don't think about that. That's for sissies, or I was going to use a different word, but I had a filter, which doesn't happen very often. I'm proud of myself. But we don't have balance in these 5 tracks, by the way. To be wealthy isn't to be balanced there. It's to have harmony. It's to have depth. You can be out of balance and have harmony because of your presence, because of your intention, because of your commitment, because of your definition of success. So playing to win, it forgets about all that, because playing to win is typically win at all costs. Win at the cost of your health. Win at the cost of your marriage. Win at the cost of your kids. Win at the cost of your quality of life. It's win at all cost, and it's actually celebrated in North America. I mean, if we look at the icons that people hold up and they go, this person's amazing. If we just look into their life for just a minute, I figured on the Forbes 400 with Dean that there was no more than 25 people we consider maybe truly wealthy. Meaning one guy had lost his legs because of diabetes. He might give back his $1 billion to maybe get that back and take it back, but it was too late, right? One was a drug dealer, by the way. I don't really consider that truly wealthy, you know, like mainly cocaine. I mean, not just, you know, big pharma. I mean, like other drugs too. But some people are on their like 7th marriage. I mean, they're train wrecks, although they had a lot of money. But you can have a lot of money and be miserable. It's actually easier to be miserable with no money than it is with a lot of money. I've tried it both ways. I really like the lot of money route. I kind of prefer that. But this truly wealthy concept is just neglected in play to win, because people are playing a game that's not worth winning. Like, they're not asking, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because they get caught up into a one-dimensional, I'll do whatever it takes, and the rest of the world, the people that are most important to them, don't ever get them. Like, I think about someone in Utah that's created a lot of value in my life. His name's Larry Miller. He got diabetes, lost a leg, ended up dying. And all I heard about from the time that he went to the hospital till the time he died is that he was sick with regret because of how he spent 0 time with his family and how much animosity there was there. Even though he brought the Utah Jazz to Utah, he built an amazing, arena. He built a speedway. Like, he did so many things in business because it was play to win, play to win, play to win. Health sucked, family sucked, dead. You don't get a second chance to build a life you love and create a legacy that lasts. His legacy within his family will consistently be something where they miss him, not from a sense that he's gone, but they always missed him.
Want to master your money? Want to figure out the things that you could do to improve your finances? Click here and check out more videos like this on Money Matters.